Forgotten Secrets. Deep in the heart of Africa, within the shadows of ancient forests, there was a small village. In this village lived a young woman named Zola. Every morning she would sit beneath the great baobab tree, lost in her thoughts. The baobab tree held a legend. The village elders believed it carried the secrets of the spirits. Zola found peace under its shade, but she couldn't ignore the emptiness inside her. There were so many things she didn't know about her family. Her father never spoke of her mother's absence, and this mystery had long planted a deep-rooted curiosity in her. One day an old man appeared from the depths of the forest. He approached Zola with a whisper, "The secrets forgotten in the shadows of the past are waiting for you." His words echoed in her mind, stirring an unease she hadn't felt before. The mystery surrounding her father, her mother, and her family's past began to weigh heavily on her. That night, Zola couldn't shake the feeling that her life was connected to something bigger than she ever imagined. Part 2. The Weight of Curiosity. Zola spent sleepless nights thinking about the old man's words. Her father always told her she was alone, but he never explained why. Deep inside, she knew that if she didn't find the answers, the emptiness would only grow. The village elders warned her, "If you enter the forest at night, you risk more than just your own life. The spirits do not forgive easily." But her curiosity was stronger than any fear she felt. With each step into the forest, Zola felt the weight of history surrounding her. The trees seemed to whisper ancient stories as she walked deeper into the unknown. Every sound, every shadow felt alive. The wilderness of Africa breathed around her, yet she felt isolated. The path she followed was lined with strange symbols that somehow felt familiar, as if they were calling to her. Part 3. A Meeting with the Past. As she ventured further, Zola found herself standing before the ruins of an old temple, hidden deep within the forest. The temple had been abandoned for generations, but it was said that the spirits still resided there. In the center of the temple stood a large stone altar, and atop it lay an ancient mask. The mask was adorned with intricate carvings, symbolizing the forgotten leader of her people. Zola stared at it, realizing that everything she had been told by her father was incomplete. There was so much more. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows. Kwame, her father's long-lost brother, revealed himself. His presence was overwhelming, carrying the weight of the secrets Zola had long sought. He told her that their family had a deep connection to the village, one tied to the spiritual realm. Her father had left the village to protect Zola from a terrible fate, but that decision came at a cost. Kwame's voice was calm, but his words were heavy. "The truth can set you free, or it can destroy everything you hold dear." Part 4. The Path Forward. Kwame explained that their family had long been the spiritual leaders of the village, but this role came with a curse. Zola's mother had been a victim of this curse, a sacrifice made to protect the village from the wrath of the spirits. Zola's father had chosen to flee with her, hoping to save her from the same fate. But now, Zola had the power to change everything. She could break the curse that had haunted her family for generations, but it would come at a great cost. Kwame led her deeper into the temple's chambers. There, Zola found relics of ancient rituals, symbols of her people's spiritual history. She realized that the mask on the altar was key to breaking the curse. Kwame told her that if she donned the mask, she would become the next spiritual leader, just like her father before her. But in doing so, she would also inherit the burden of the curse. Part 5. The Inner Struggle. Zola's heart raced as she stood before the altar. She could feel the power emanating from the mask, but with it came fear. She had to make a choice. Would she accept the role of spiritual leader and save her family and village, or would she walk away, preserving her own freedom but condemning them to their fate? As she reached for the mask, the air around her grew heavy, and the shadows in the room seemed to close in. The storm clouds gathered above the temple as if nature itself was responding to her inner turmoil. Zola held the mask in her hands, her mind racing with thoughts of her father's sacrifice, her mother's pain, and her own future. She could hear the distant echoes of the spirits, whispering secrets that only she could hear. Time seemed to stand still as she grappled with her decision. Part 6. The Storm Within. Zola finally placed the mask on her face, and in that moment, a storm erupted inside her. Visions of the past and the future flashed before her eyes. She saw her father's struggle, her mother's sorrow, and Kwame's isolation. The weight of her family's history was overwhelming, and for a moment she felt as though she couldn't breathe. Meanwhile, back in the village, the air grew tense. The moment Zola donned the mask, its power rippled through the village. The people could feel the shift, though they didn't understand what had happened. Some believed that Zola had taken on the role of savior, while others feared that she had unleashed a curse upon them. Zola stood frozen, her mind filled with conflicting emotions. Was she ready to carry this burden? Was she truly willing to sacrifice herself for the village? Or was there another way to change her fate? Part 7. The Final Decision. As the storm inside her began to calm, Zola opened her eyes. Kwame stood before her, watching silently. She had made her choice. With trembling hands she removed the mask. She would not follow in her father's footsteps. Instead, she would forge her own path. Zola turned to Kwame, her voice steady but filled with resolve. I will not carry the burden of the past. I will not let our family be defined by this curse. Kwame nodded, a silent acknowledgement of her strength. As she left the temple, Zola made her way back to the village. The people stood waiting, uncertain of what had happened. Zola looked at them with determination. Follow me or leave me, she said. But we will no longer be prisoners of the past. We will create a new future. Part 8. The Conflict Within. As Zola made her way back to the village, her mind was far from calm. The weight of her decision hung heavy on her heart. She had chosen not to follow the path laid out by her ancestors, but deep inside, she wondered if she had truly done the right thing. Every step she took echoed with doubt. Had she doomed her village to suffer without the protection of the spirits? Or had she freed them from a cycle of fear and oppression? The village lay in front of her, bathed in the soft glow of dusk. The people had gathered outside, waiting for her return. Their faces were etched with worry, hope, and confusion. They knew something had changed, but none of them understood what Zola had truly faced in the depths of the forest. As she approached, whispers filled the air. Has she taken the mantle? Is the curse lifted? Will we be safe now? Zola took a deep breath and spoke, her voice steady but carrying the weight of her journey. The path we have followed for generations no longer defines us. The spirits no longer rule our future. We do. The crowd murmured, uncertain of what her words truly meant. Could they trust her decision, or had she abandoned them to face the wrath of the spirits? Part 9. Confronting the Elders. Not everyone was ready to accept Zola's choice. The village elders, keepers of the old ways, approached her with suspicion in their eyes. The eldest among them, Mali, stepped forward, his voice stern and filled with authority. You have returned, Zola, but where is the mask? Where is the symbol of our protection? Have you forsaken the spirits that guard this village? Zola met Mali's gaze without flinching. The spirits we feared for so long have no more power over us. We are the ones who choose our fate. The mask was never meant to be our salvation. It was a chain that kept us bound to the past. Mali's face darkened. You speak with dangerous confidence. Without the spirits, how do you intend to protect this village? What power do you have to face the challenges that lie ahead? Zola paused, knowing that her next words would determine whether the village would follow her or turn against her. We protect ourselves. We are not powerless, and we do not need ancient spirits to guide us. Our strength lies in our unity, in our ability to face the unknown together without fear. Her words hung in the air like a challenge. The villagers waited, holding their breath, as the elders exchanged glances. Mali's eyes flickered with doubt, but he did not relent. And if the spirits come to punish us for abandoning their ways, who will stand against them? Part 10. The Spirits Return. Just as Mali's words settled over the crowd, a sudden gust of wind swept through the village, sending dust spiraling into the air. The sky, once calm, darkened with swirling clouds. A low rumble echoed in the distance, and the air grew heavy with the presence of something unseen. Zola's heart raced. Had she made a terrible mistake? Had her defiance of the spirits awakened their wrath? She felt the eyes of the village on her, waiting for her to act. But instead of fear, a sense of clarity washed over her. This was the moment she had prepared for. The spirits were testing her resolve. In the center of the village, the great baobab tree swayed ominously. The villagers gathered around it, eyes wide with fear. From the shadows beneath the tree, a figure began to emerge, a spectral form shimmering with an otherworldly glow. It was the spirit of her ancestors, a being of ancient power and judgment. The crowd gasped, some falling to their knees in reverence. Mali stepped back, his face pale. The spirits have come, he whispered. But Zola stood her ground. She approached the spirit, her chin held high, her heart pounding but steady. She had learned too much to back down now. I am not afraid of you, she said, her voice clear. You do not control us any longer. The spirit's form shifted, its eyes glowing with an eerie light. You dare challenge us, child of the past? It whispered, its voice like the wind through the trees. You would defy the order we have kept for centuries? Zola's hands trembled, but she refused to waver. I don't defy you. I release you. Your time here is over. It's time for the village to walk its own path. Part 11, the final test. The spirit's glow intensified, casting long shadows across the village. For a moment, it seemed as though the ground beneath them would split open, swallowing the village whole. But just as quickly the energy dissipated, and the spirit's form began to fade. "We will not return," the spirit said, its voice growing softer. "Your fate is yours now. But remember, Zola, the choices you make will shape the future more than you can imagine." With that, the spirit vanished into the wind, leaving the village in silence. Zola turned to face her people, her body trembling with the weight of what had just transpired. The villagers stood in awe, unsure of what to believe. Molly too seemed shaken. He approached Zola once more, but this time his voice was softer, filled with respect. "You have faced the spirits and stood strong. Perhaps you were right. Perhaps it is time for us to choose our own path." Zola nodded, though her heart still raced with uncertainty. "We will face the future together. But we will face it on our terms?" As the clouds cleared and the village returned to its quiet calm, Zola realized that her journey was far from over. The spirits may have left, but the weight of leadership, of guiding her people into a new era, had only just begun. She had broken the chains of the past, but now she had to build the foundation of their future.